When it comes to real estate videography these days, a drone is almost a mandatory part of the equation. Today, I'm going to teach you the 4 drone maneuvers you should master to successfully pull off an incredible real estate video every time. Let's get into it. What's the deal? Welcome back to the studio, everyone. Jeremy Deal here. Let's get right into a few film terms you'll need to know for this video. If you're already proficient in this terminology, then the next 30 seconds will not matter to you at all. And if you don't know any of these terms, prepare to impress your future clientele with proper filming techniques they have never heard of either. All right, ready? Here we go. Short descriptions of everything. Dolly shots, also known as a push or pull shot, the simplest of terms, and it pretty much makes sense the second you hear them. But just to be sure, a camera push is a slow forward movement, and a pull is a slow reverse movement, and a forward dolly, once again, is a slow forward movement, and a reverse or backward dolly is a slow reverse or backward motion. The next one you'll need to know is truck. Truck is when you take the camera and move it left or right with no forward or back movement. So that's basically a slide left or right, for lack of a better term. Next terminology you may need to know, tilt. That's when you take the camera from a fixed position and tilt it up or down, depending on what you want to see. And the very last one we're going to talk about is a pan, and that is once again when the camera is fixed but pans left to right. So you're not moving left to right anymore, you're just moving the lens left to right with the body stable. Now there's more terminology out there related to how you move a camera through space, but those are the only 4 movements we'll be covering today, and most are a combination of movements to create something a little more dynamic than just the basic. As you can see, I've got my remote here. I am going to, after record this, move this mic out the way, and I'll show you these motions right here along with showing you some screenshots. So with all those covered, we're going to start with the front of the property and the shots you'll probably be starting your video with. Now that being said, my favorite shot to start my videos with, the high circle. This shot is a combination of trucking and panning the camera at the same time with the goal of keeping your main subject matter in the center of the frame. I do this shot traditionally between 300 and 380 AGL and far enough away from the property that I can see it and the sky in the shot, showing the entire environment around the property. I suggest never starting this shot from the dead center of the property. Instead, start to the left and move right, or start to the right and move left. There are a few different reasons why you want to do it this way. Number 1, it usually takes a minute to get the 2 directions of throttle to kind of even out or make the shot look steady and cohesive with no jumps and jitter along the way of you correcting your course. The second reason lines directly up with our next shot, so once you figure out your second shot location, you'll know which direction to move, either left or right, and that'll make more sense right now. Because the second shot, something I like to call the push-in center. This is the most complicated of all the shots I'll talk about today because it's incorporating so many of the movements in one shot. I personally like to start this shot between 10 and 20 feet above the house line with the gimbal angled down at the front exterior. The first part of this shot is dolly in towards the house. The second part of this shot is slowly dropping your altitude towards the front of the house. And the third part of this shot is tilting the camera up. Doing all 3 of these motions together while keeping the front exterior centered in the frame. On a windy day, it will be more difficult than you want it to be, and some days your fingers just will not cooperate. There's a lot going on in this shot, so don't feel bad if it takes you a few attempts to get it correct on each property. I typically run this shot, in particular, 3 times on each property, just in case the wind pushes my drone around a little and I don't notice it on site. Easily not noticeable on that tiny screen, especially since you have so much going on in your hands at the time. This is the most difficult of the shots, and it's also the most impactful shot. Putting it as your second shot is a great way to hold the viewer's attention the few extra seconds required to get them watching to the interior shots as well. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but the payoff is always huge. So I recommend practicing this one as much as possible because it's always a crowd pleaser. Bonus tip right here, if there's not enough room to do this version of shot number 2, you can do the modified version, which is a slow reveal. This is where you'll place an object between the property and your drone, typically something like a tree or maybe a phone line or a bush or anything that shows a little distance. And you'll slowly truck either left or right from behind that object to reveal the property. The first method is much more eye-catching, but this method has its advantages in tighter neighborhoods or townhouse communities. On to the next shot. Now remember, if you're liking all this, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and on to the last shot of the front exterior I'll talk about. And it's focusing on the front porch or front door. This shot is similar to the very first shot because it's much easier movement and in the same direction. This one is the door push. I like to start this shot with the drone at the same height as the front door itself. The drone is roughly in the middle of the yard for smaller houses, or should I say close enough to the front exterior that you can't see the entire front of the house in the shot. In this shot, you'll slowly dolly forward while trucking and panning simultaneously to keep the door in the center of the shot while moving towards it. If you want to keep your video flowing smoothly, make sure to do this shoot in the same direction as the previous shot. If you came in from the left moving right, it's the same direction you should take for this shot as well. A cohesion of movement amongst your shots will make your final product much more appealing. Switching up the motion sides here could cause visual cortex overload and your viewers causing instant eradication of this video from their screens, the opposite effect we want. So keep your shots flowing properly and we can move on to the back of the property. Shot number 4. Pull away reveal. This is the same movement I use for all the rear exterior shots I do with the drone. Granted, some people have extravagant backyards with tons of features, but I typically get these features with my ground camera and just focus on the yard itself with the drone. For the first of these 2 shots, I want you to be about 20 to 40 foot above the property and slightly behind it, so you're viewing the backyard and the back of the house at a slight angle. Keep in mind, for this first one, you're using it as an establishing shot of what the yard looks like. So once you go to the higher shot next, it'll be easily recognizable to the viewer. So the first shot will be a simple dolly backwards with an increase of altitude, keeping the yard as centered as possible. This is the easiest of every shot so far. Follow this shot up with the exact same shot, but closer to an elevation of 300 AGL. For this shot, you will once again be dollying backwards while gaining elevation and rising, but now you will also add a tilt up of the gimbal to reveal the horizon line, once again showing the entirety of the surrounding areas, including the sky. To make this shot line up the best, try and center the property you're showcasing in the center of the shot as much as possible. So when you make that cut, the viewer is already focused on that same area from the shot before. Once again, keeping that shot cohesion in mind to keep your final video even better. It's the little things like lining up your shot directions and flows that take a regular video and set it over the top to something way better. Most people will not know why they like the video so much more, but you'll know it's because you put the forethought into the process. Thinking more like a cinematographer to wow the audience will almost guarantee another order for the agent you just worked with and an influx of new clients when your video starts hitting the market. Beating out the visual styles of your competitors is the goal here. You want to be the best so everyone hires you. If you want to know more about my exact process on photographing properties with a drone, you can check that video out right over here. And if you want to see the styles of videos I produce for my agents, you can check that video out over here. As always, keep rocking and rolling, enjoy what you're doing, make smart business decisions, and use these shots and you won't need any other ones for your real estate video. I'll catch you next time.